Texas gubernatorial candidate Beto O'Rourke held a campaign event in Nacogdoches, Texas on Tuesday. During the event, he vowed that his administration would, quote, prioritize the lives of our kids over the interests of the NRA or gun lobby. O'Rourke is a former congressman and failed 2020 presidential candidate who has had a storied history on gun control. As a presidential contender, he railed against citizens owning AR-15s. When he launched his run for governor, O'Rourke sought to minimize his messaging on gun control. But following the Uvalde mass shooting, he resumed his criticism of Republican-supported gun policies.
Today, my money is on Texas women winning it back on November 8th, 2022. Do not sleep on Texas women. They're going to win your day. I'll give you another number. It has been 19 weeks to the day. 19 weeks. Since 19 children and their 2 teachers were taken from us in Uvalde at Robb Elementary. Those kids, 10 and 11 years old, absolutely defenseless against someone who could walk into that classroom with a legally purchased AR-15, a weapon originally designed, engineered, sold to the United States military for use in Vietnam to be able to kill an enemy soldier at 500 yards, penetrate a steel helmet, and take him down dead. Those kids were not at 500 yards. They were at 5 feet max. Nothing on their head, but maybe a baseball cap. But they were also defenseless against a governor who, after 5 of the worst mass shootings in U.S. history have occurred in this state in just the last 5 years, has done nothing to make it any less likely that any other child, your younger brothers and sisters, will meet the same fate in another classroom, in another community, in another part of Texas. The answers do not elude us. The common ground is right before us. Look, we may not all be able to agree on everything that we want to do to avert these crises and these massacres and these needless deaths of young people across the state. But we should remember, gun violence is now the leading cause of death for children and teenagers in the state of Texas. We have more mass shootings in schools in this state than does any of the other 49. This doesn't have to be our future. There's something we can do about it. And look, just like many of you, I grew up in this state. I grew up with firearms in the household. I grew up with parents who taught me not just how to use that gun, but the responsibility that comes with owning it. I think we can return to this responsible level of gun ownership in Texas. Here are my ideas that I've heard from you. 1, let's raise the age of purchase for an AR-15 to at least 21, right? By 3 more years for some kind of intervention in the lives of those who may need a little bit of help. Let's make sure that we have a red flag law so that if you have that gun already and are threatening to use it against yourself or against somebody in your home or one of these kids in a school, law enforcement through due process can intervene before it's too late. Those states that have adopted red flag laws like Florida, 23 days after Marjorie Stoneman, when those kids were killed in that high school, it took a Republican governor in a Republican majority state 23 days to implement a red flag law. School shootings and mass shootings in those states that have adopted them declined by 80%. We know that they work. And then a universal background check. And this is one where I have yet to find the gun owner, the Republican, the Democrat, the Independent, the Texan, who will argue the other side. All it says is, if you want to buy a gun in Texas, that's great. Let's just make sure that we go through a background check and ensure that you are not a danger to yourself or to anybody else. In Texas today, you buy from a gun store, you'll go through it. But you buy from a private seller, as a young man did in Midland, Odessa at the end of August in 2019, there are no questions asked. And he used an AR-15, not unlike that used in Uvalde, to kill 8 innocent people in that community. Those 3 ideas